Good morning. Terry here again. This morning I'd like to talk about 3 ways to respond to fear. And you'll see me referring to my notes a little bit, and just to see how carefully I script things. It's all there, but it's I might be turning the pad a little bit to find it. But I'd like to talk about 3 ways that I respond to strong emotions or fear or drives or something that's inside that just keeps me going in a certain direction or keeps me obsessing about something. 3 ways, and it only took me 58 years to learn about these 3 different ways, so maybe you've learned it much sooner than I have. But 3 ways. The first way, when I'm being pushed by something or obsessed by something, is to turn away from it. I have the choice of turning away from it. I can try to deny it and ignore it, just minimize it and say it's not important, this feeling that I have or this drive that I have, it'll wane, it'll take care of, or maybe it's helpful, there's something going on, that just ignore it as much as I can, or what the method that I used most frequently in my career life is to cover it up. Cover it up with slogans, maybe some motivational statement or a very important verse from my tradition, from the Christian New Testament kind of thing, and just kind of cover it up that way. And certainly by noise, just keeping it going, or for the last, especially the last decade or so of my career life, through busyness. Just keep moving and moving and moving. And the strange thing is, or the reality is, whatever it is that I'm trying to run away from or cover up or busy over, it's that it continues, it follows. It's like a shadow that's there, or sometimes dangerously, a person in front of becomes a mirror of it. So I project it onto them. I see this part of myself, or this thing that's a companion of mine, projected onto them. So that's the first option, turning away from it, just trying to put it behind me. Second way is to walk alongside it. And by that I mean it's always there. It's speaking. It's like it's speaking to me. It's pushing me. It's motivating me. It's giving me constant input. It's speaking anxiety into me. Sometimes it's vocal, sometimes it's almost like it's coming in through my skin. The anger might be there. It's just a constant input, a constant fueling of my life or my emotions, or sometimes rather than fueling, it's a dampening, just holding me back, kind of a weightiness, and it walks alongside of me. But then there's a third way. And the third way that I've discovered is to turn toward it. Whatever this is, and this is the one that took me 58 years to really learn in depth, is to whatever this thing is, turn toward it. And I have kind of a script that I go through. I turn toward this, and knowing it's still a part of me, but treating it as something that's in front of me, this part of me that I have to get to know, and I say something like, let's chat, or let's spend time together, and I face it directly. As peacefully as I can. Sometimes tea helps, or coffee, or for me, I work best usually in facing whatever it is, either early morning, where it's very quiet, or for many years with a therapist, Dr. Bill. Just having him help me identify and talk with it. Then I ask, what's your name? It's naming this thing. Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it anger? Is it woundedness? Is it grieving? What is this? And sometimes this thing turns out to be multiple names, various names for the same thing, or a group of things that are together. So I say, let's chat. What's your name? Then, from what I've learned from Buddhist teachers, is self-compassion, which in this case is having compassion for this this feeling or this emotion or whatever I'm naming, and that is to say something like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what can we do? This must be hard. This must be a challenge for all these years to not be heard, to not be recognized, to try to give input into my life, but not even being received. What can we do? Is this enough to talk, to get to know each other, to chat, to sit with each other? Is this something we need to do for a period of time? Do we need somebody else to come into our life, like Dr. Bill, or for me today, friend Dan, my wife Anita? We need to sit with someone and chat together, just to have somebody give us some input into it. So, can turn away from it, try to run away from it, trying to ignore it, can walk alongside it, just let it motivate, just try to live with it, let's say, or turn toward it. And there are a couple of, the time that I learned the third way of turning toward them the most was in 2007. I had been in career life just being driven beyond reason, actually. Just push, 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 go as far as I can, do as much as I can, and then add 20% to it. And after I retired from that busyness and all the distractions of career, I took time to turn toward these felt like a dread. And this is an entry from my personal journal in September of 2007. That's why I say it took me 58 years to learn this. I wrote this. Ah, there you are, my old companionable dreads. Even though we've traveled together for decades, you still feel more like shadows than substantial. I can't describe you in any detail. I wonder why I've never turned toward you to take a good look. Well, I'm finally ready to spend time with you, to learn your names, to discover who you are. Then 6 weeks later, of turning toward them, learning their names and so on, in October of 2007, I wrote, Good morning, Dreads. It's been good to get to know you these past weeks, all 10 of you. I finally know your names. And here are the names for my 10 companionable dreads. Sedate, satisfied, and settled, dormant, dull, and risk-free, and immovable, done, stalled, and unchanging. And once I'd spent time with my dreads and knew their individual names, I wrote this in my journal too, they became trusted friends. They were there for me, eager to contribute to my whole health. I even had a picture that I purchased the use for of what these dreads look like, at least 6 of them. And they look like this. No longer fearful, no longer angry. They were a part of me. Companionable dreads. Finally, no longer running from them, covering them up with busyness, no longer alongside of me, pushing or motivating or giving me, it was really anxiety, giving me stress, but also giving me motivation to do as much as I did. So that was years ago, and I'm applying it now too, because I've been waking up once in a while with some very troubling dreams about this coronavirus. And I listen to reports and it kind of settles on my chest, and not the virus itself, but the anxiety about it, where my breath isn't quite as full as it was before, or I have some tension, headaches, so there's something going on. And I'm applying the same thing now, rather than trying to ignore it and just say, oh, it's just reasonable because there's this pandemic going on right now, so of course I'm anxious. No, not writing it off. Actually sitting in my ponder chair early in the morning with some coffee and just journaling, getting to know them, talking to them, and I don't quite have names for them. The initial name is anxiety or fear or something like that, but I think there's more specific name to it. So I'm getting to know this dread, getting to know this part of me that's here. How much of it is healthy, how much of it is dredging up something from before. So I'd encourage you. Maybe you've been living with some companionable dreads or some drives that are beyond reason. But have you been trying to run away from them? Have you just been walking alongside of them? And I wonder if you've ever really sat down and gotten to know them. Get to know their names. Show them or that part of yourself deep self-compassion. Just saying, I'm sorry you've been carrying this. I'm sorry I haven't listened to this part of myself. So, something to think about. Something I'll be working on, and if I think about it, I'll scribble some more notes and tell you where I end up in a week or two. Have a great day and a great week.